Welcome, everybody, to another episode of OA News Overtime. I'm Jordan Hill with Justin Lee, as always.
Jordan.
Justin.
It's the Iron Bowl week.
It's Iron Bowl week, baby.
Believe it or not, and I do not believe it.
I truly don't. I mean, sincerely, I feel like this football season has gone very, very quickly. It's clearly not gone the way that Auburn has wanted it to, or Auburn's fans. But you know what could change that, Justin?
Beating Alabama?
Beating Alabama. So that will be the big test on Saturday. It's going to be a 2:30 Central Time kickoff. It's going to be in Jordan-Hare, which we know when Auburn's had success really over the last decade or so against Alabama, it's been in Auburn.
Sure.
What are your thoughts going into this game? Obviously, Auburn's had a rough go of it, 3 losses in a row. Trying to end the season in the regular season above 500, try to get a little momentum to end the first regular season under Brian Harsin. What's sort of your take or your feel of what this game means and what we can kind of expect on Saturday?
Well, if there's one thing I know about the Iron Bowl, and it reminds me of bowl games, especially in the Gus era, in a different way, because Gus would always just spend his whole December recruiting and like playing young people in practice for next year, and then he'd lose the bowl game because he doesn't care.
Yeah, it didn't mean very much.
It didn't mean anything.
And truly, I mean, I get that perspective.
But what would happen was Auburn fans the same way would be completely apathetic the entire time. They wouldn't care until and then it's like, oh, Minnesota, who cares what happens until kickoff. And then it was like, stab me in the face, like this is the most important thing in the world. I can't believe this. I'm on to pins and needles.
DEFCON 5 and 7. Oh,
right. So push that up for the Iron Bowl times 1 billion.
Yeah.
Everyone this week, from the Auburn perspective, might feel a little bit disheartened, a little apathetic. You know, at best. At worst, you're like, things aren't good. At best, you're like, oh, it's only year one, so I understand why things aren't good.
Yeah.
Either way, you're not feeling good.
Either way, you're not really painting a bright picture.
No, right.
And that's just the nature of what has happened.
But that's how it's going to feel all the way up to kickoff. And when that ball's in the air, everyone's going to want to throw up.
Yeah.
Like, that's the Iron Bowl. That's how it is. You don't want to lose. As soon as you see those uniforms on that field, as soon as you see that rival out there, you don't want to lose this game. And that's how it's going to be. I feel like the lead up will be a little bit strange. You know, game day is not here. It's not winner take all. It's not for the division, any of that. But no, be prepared that when kickoff comes, everyone's just going to want to throw up. Welcome to the Iron Bowl, where no one has fun and everyone just throws up.
Yep.
Wants to throw up.
Yes. It's going to be a very interesting game from the Auburn perspective. Obviously, things haven't been going well, and the task has gotten more difficult with Bo Nix out, with Brandon Council hurt, with Kobe Hudson hurt, Owen Papo still missing time. But what has to go right? And we can kind of talk about this even a little more in detail when we get to our picks. What are you looking at in this game and saying if Auburn is going to even contend? I'm not saying win. If Auburn's going to hang with Alabama, this has to happen.
You know what's depressing? This is one of Alabama's most beatable teams.
Yeah.
Honestly, in recent memory. Especially a top-ranked, title-contending team.
Yes.
They usually look unbeatable. These guys are beatable.
Defense has given up a lot of points.
They ran ball for like 6 yards against LSU at home.
Yeah.
What's going on? But, you know, you might feel decent about it if you weren't blowing 40-point consecutive points.
Or 14-point
Or 14 points leads to South Carolina. So, I mean, for the first time in a few games, Auburn will not have the talent advantage, and that's going to look dire. I don't know. What has to happen is you have to force mistakes. You have to play without mistakes. And you got to get some big plays. I kind of go back to like maybe the 2009 Iron Bowl when Auburn had, Gus pulled out tricks in it was his first year, and he brought in, it was the hurry up, no huddle. It was reverses and gadget plays and all that. Get to the fourth quarter and try to get there and try to make some magic happen. Kind of like the Georgia game last year, Auburn was unmatched, but 21-0 going into the fourth, scored 14 unanswered in the fourth quarter and almost made that thing a game. They had a little bit of cushion to, if they started any faster, they would have been in the game.
2 years ago, right? Because last year was in Athens.
Oh, yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm nuts.
It's all right.
Bo's freshman year.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. You're right, 2 years ago. One of those, a game like that, where, hey, you're outmatched, you're outclassed. But if you do enough things to get to the fourth, something stupid can happen because you're in Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yes.
That's, I think, what has to happen.
You want to know the one-word summary of what I think is needed?
Lay it on me.
Tank.
Tank. Tonk.
Tonk. Tank.
Tank.
I think we saw it last week that when things were going well, you had Tank rolling, and I thought he looked really good in that South Carolina game. I think that when the offense sort of started to stray and when you started to kind of wonder was when they quit running Tank. And I understand, you do have to kind of manage his workload. You're not going to run him 50 times and then say, well,
more than 22 or whatever.
Yes. Didn't run him, I don't think, at all in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
2 runs.
2 runs in the second quarter.
Very few in the fourth. I don't remember the
With
number.
like 5.5 minutes to go, that last drive where Auburn was starting deep in its own territory. Didn't run him at all.
0.
And, on one hand, you say, well, you see TJ had that throw right away. I think it was like for a 28-yard gain to Shedrick to kind of get the momentum. It's like, well, did you have to run? Keep the defense honest, man.
Right.
Like, and the way that those last few possessions went as far as throwing the ball, I think TJ only completed like 3 of his last 9 attempts. So, like, it wasn't like the passing game was just lighting the world on fire.
No.
You got to run Tank. If they're going to have a chance to win this game, Tank has to have a big game, and they've got to be able – they got to be able to match Alabama because here's a dirty little secret.
Uh-huh.
Auburn.
Yeah.
Not good at stopping the pass. Alabama.
Bryce Young.
Good at doing the pass. That's just how I see it. It's going to be
pass, win the game.
Yes, yes. Tank's got to be able to run the ball, and Auburn has got to just match point for point. I don't see if this game is combined with like 30 or 40 points between the two teams. I don't think Auburn won. I think that means Alabama won like 37-3. Like, I think if Auburn's going to win, it's going to be like, Alabama scored a lot, but somehow Auburn scored a lot too.
You want to know another random game from 2 years ago that I'm thinking about?
Let's hear it.
The LSU game when Joe Burrow beat Auburn, 24-21, really close game.
Right.
But when Burrow scored, it was a lightning strike. Boom, 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 right down the field. 3 plays, touchdown. Like, that's what I remember from that game. Bryce is capable of the same exact thing.
Yep.
And so you could play the result may not match the average. You could play like you could get 3 and outs, but all but 2 drives the first half. But those 2 drives are going to be touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like that could play out. That could happen. I feel like this Alabama offense, is very start and stop, but like they're gonna strike at points like lightning, and that's what they do ever since Lane Kiffin went up there. That's how they've been. Since the offensive renaissance at Alabama, the second portion of Nick Saban's tenure. I just think like Auburn has to, to your point, Auburn has to score and score steadily. I think there could be stretches where it feels like a low-scoring game and it feels like a grinded-out game, but Alabama's going to strike like lightning. So Auburn has to take advantage of all its opportunities, I think, to score. And that, like, to your point, man, like, give your best players the ball, all of them. And that, it starts with Tank, 100%.
Anything else on the Iron Bowl before we throw it to our beat writer in charge on the pod?
We'll be, we'll show our picks here in a little bit after your visit, but it's another Iron Bowl, man, and I don't know. That would be my main thing is like as just know as whatever you're feeling about it, you're sitting around the Thanksgiving table not feeling good about it, going into Friday you're not feeling good about it, just remember that once the ball's in there, it don't matter. You're not going to care. All you're going to care about is trying to win the game. That's special, and hold on to it, hold on to it dear, even in years like this. The opportunity is there, and what an opportunity for Brian Harsin to correct so many things that have gone wrong.
People will forget. They may not forget. They will forgive
Yep.
what's happened over the course of pretty much all of November if things cut the right way for Auburn.
What's the flip side, Jordan?
The flip side, if they look bad,
If they lose?
it's just going to be another kick in the pants.
You're going to be 6-6, heading to a bowl game against some crummy team in some crummy bowl game, trying not to lose your 5th straight game.
Yes, try not to have a losing season, which would be the first since 2012. So
something his predecessor never happened to.
Yes.
What you got? So I mean, the stakes are always high.
Yes.
The stakes are high here again. I could go on and on. I mean, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, it's his first year." He will be graded for this game. Brian Harsin will be graded because the Iron Bowl is always graded.
Yes.
I don't care if it's year 1. I don't care. You're going to count.
On the other side, I know this is going back to the '80s. Bill Curry got ran out of town in Tuscaloosa after like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't beat Auburn.
Yeah. No coach since Suge has survived 3 Iron Bowl losses except Gus from 14, 15, 16 because he just went to the national championship game.
Yes.
And then I think that's on both sides.
Probably, yeah.
Maybe Shulub might have lost 3 in a row, but
he
had probation going on.
Yeah. Alabama was not in a great way then.
Right. So I'm just saying, you do get these points count. Not saying anything further.
And my thing is, they may not count right now. They will be remembered.
You will, yeah.
That's the thing.
Right, you'll remember it.
Like they're not going to escort him off the field, if things don't go well Saturday.
No, but you
people remember.
Right, exactly. It counts. Counts towards your final grade.
Basically, yes.
It's the Iron Bowl. So, just a big game, man. A lot to lose, to be honest. Like we said, we talked about the flip side. Flip side is bleak. Flip side is dire. But a lot to gain, like you said. Once again, that counts. That to your credit, you beat them. That'll go a long way in recruiting. That'll go a long way in your resume, and it'll go a long way in how you build your program. So, a big opportunity. As always, it's just a big game. It's always big. It's the Iron Bowl.
Well, we're going to throw it to our Alabama beat writer that we had a chance to talk to, and it was Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News. I had a chance to talk to Nick, who is going into his first Iron Bowl.
Wow.
So I had a chance to reminisce and talk a little bit with him about what he's expecting and again, where Alabama stands coming into this game and what needs to break in Alabama's favor to get a big Iron Bowl victory on the road. Let's throw it to Nick and see what he had to say.
Well, Nick, it's Iron Bowl week. We're getting ready for the big game on Saturday, and I want to talk a little bit about the Crimson Tide. Alabama coming in 10-1. Seems like they have responded well after that loss to Texas A&M. Just what have you seen from Alabama in these last few games as they get ready to play Auburn?
Well, Bryce Young has been quite excellent. The LSU game wasn't as strong for the offense, but the last few games, I mean, he's on a roll. And even since the A&M loss, he has been playing really well. He hasn't thrown an interception since that loss. And I believe he has 18 touchdowns since that game. Had another 5 against Arkansas, which is a solid secondary. I mean, it's not Georgia's defense, but it still is a team that has a quality defense. And he threw 5 touchdowns at the record for passing yards for an Alabama quarterback in a single game. And so, yeah, just a great day from him. And overall, the team has kind of some ups and downs between, okay, the defense is better in this game, and then the offense was struggling a little bit, but then, okay, now the offense is doing well, and now the defense is struggling. So it's a bit of a roller coaster that way, but for the most part, they found ways to win, which is sometimes just what you have to do.
And yeah, I want to ask about the defense because obviously most of the time that Nick Saban has been there, it's been about the defense. Defense has always been so good. And I feel like almost every time I get on Twitter, it's someone, complaining about Pete Golding, complaining about what the Crimson Tide have been doing. What has been maybe the overarching issue with this defense, or is it just that it's sort of been different issues week to week?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the game. It depends on what has gone into the game. Any chance there is for Alabama fans to roast or just talk about Pete Golding, they take that opportunity, and he is the lightning rod for any defensive issues. But really, in this past game against Arkansas, for example, there were just some guys getting beat one-on-one. I mean, you got a guy in Treylon Burks, a receiver for Arkansas, who, I mean, he is a handful. I mean, what a talented receiver. And him and KJ Jefferson had this back shoulder throw that they hit several times that the cornerback would have solid coverage, because you can't be underneath too much, because Burks can beat you deep too because he's fast. And so they would take advantage of that and have this back shoulder throw that was so hard to defend. And so you just have guys getting beat one-on-one in man coverage. And that's not a scheme thing. That's not I mean, you could, even when they had a safety nearby, it's still just a guy making a great play and a great catch. So there was some of that went on. There were some miscommunications, a few things where, for example, it was kind of a little bit of a pick play, not necessarily maybe, illegal, but just more so like designed to kind of take advantage of a crossing route or two guys crossing. And that led to two Alabama defenders running into each other. And then a guy got wide open. So, so there were a few things like that as well. But it's something that I think it depends on the game as to what the issue would be. But when you have, the pass rush has been there at times. Sometimes it's not there as much. I mean, Will Anderson has been stellar for this team as a sophomore. But yeah, it's hard to pinpoint just one thing. It just kind of depends on what is it in each game. But there have been some busts in coverage and some issues in coverage at times. So if there's an area that maybe is consistent, the defense is having issues again, it might be because of the coverage was not there.
I want to ask you about a few different players, but I actually want to start with a local guy for us, Javion Cohen, who went to Central Phoenix City, not far from Auburn. He's been the starting left guard. I think he kind of, Nick Saban raised a few eyebrows during media days when he mentioned that he was probably in line to start as a sophomore. What have you thought from what you've seen from Javion and to a bigger extent, how he and the entire offensive line have played for most of the year?
Yeah, it's funny. I had forgotten about that at media days because Nick Saban didn't really talk about many players specifically, but Javion was one of them who we brought up. Yeah, he's a guy who has been very consistent, I think he's been solid for them. He, of course, missed the New Mexico State game with an injury, but otherwise he's been pretty healthy. He has the good fortune of playing next to Evan Neal, who's the left tackle. Evan's probably going to be a first-round pick, maybe even top 10 in the draft coming up here. But yeah, I mean, it's basically when this team wants to have success running the ball or they have a big moment, more often than not, we've seen them run off the left side. And, of course, a lot of that has to do with Evan, but also Javion being next to him is another element in that. So as far as, offensive line play can be hard to isolate at times, but those two working together have been solid at times in the run game. And I think he's done a good job, and he's been a guy that they've been pleased with overall.
Obviously, when you talk about Alabama right now, Will Anderson and Bryce Young, and I want to start with Bryce. A lot of people think that he's right up there with C.J. Stroud as a true Heisman contender. What have you seen in just how he's played these last few games, getting down the stretch as Alabama tries to end the regular season on a high note?
Yeah, I mean, he is right up there. And, of course, C.J. Stroud had a great game this past week, but so did Bryce. So it's but to me, it all comes down to how Bryce is going to do against Georgia in the SEC championship game. And how he does in that will probably determine a lot of how the Heisman plays out, just in terms of, that'll be the true test of, hey, he's facing the top defense in the country. But overall, I mean, as for a sophomore, a guy who is first-year starter, I mean, we knew coming in that he was going to be good because he was phenomenal in high school. I mean, just lights out, 5-star dual threat quarterback out of California. But, it was more a case of, okay, how is he going to actually be in the SEC, playing for Alabama? And really, he's maybe exceeded expectations. He's a guy who, I mean, he's got poise, even just when he talks. I mean, it's crazy to think he's, as young as he is, just the way he, conducts himself and just the way that he goes about his business. I think it really, he's got quite a career ahead of him, and this is just kind of the beginning of it. And already, I mean, like I said, he's got 18 touchdowns since the A&M game, which was, I believe, October 9th. And so he's on a roll. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And the thing about him that is fascinating, he can extend plays like no one else. But sometimes it can get him in a little bit of trouble. But at the same time, that can be such a great weapon to have too, because he'll have the ball for like 7-8 seconds, which is so hard to cover as a secondary. And as he can make plays, he'll find guys. He keeps his eyes down the field. He's not looking to run right away, but he is actually a guy who can run pretty well too. And like in the open field, he's not necessarily a long track athlete, if you will, but he's a guy who he can get you to bite so easily on where you think he's going to be or where he is. And then at the last second, he'll bounce out of the way. And it's amazing how he can just bait guys. He's kind of a bit of a magician, disappearing act kind of that he does. And so, he definitely, it's interesting to see his progression. And I think the trajectory is very promising for him.
When you look at Saturday's game from the Alabama perspective, what do you think are the most important matchups, the things that may decide how this game plays out? And if you feel like giving a prediction, by all means, do that as well.
Yeah, well, to me, stopping Tank Bigsby is probably the big thing for this defense. My understanding is he tends to be a source of offensive success when it's there, especially now that Bo Nix is hurt. And so I'm interested to see how the defense does against him. But to me, yeah, it's seeing how Bryce can do against that secondary for Auburn that my understanding has been a little had some struggles recently. Of course, Mississippi State, I think it was 6 touchdowns to Will Rogers, and that's a crazy offense to defend, but some struggles there. And even South Carolina, I think, started pretty well from a quarterback perspective. So, yeah, Bryce could have a big day. I think that's the matchup to exploit, and we'll see where that goes. But I think as far as a defense, it starts with stopping Tank Bigsby and going from there. And then my score prediction, I should say, to add that in, I'm going to go with, I think, 31-20 Alabama. On paper, these two teams feel like they're at very different points, but as we know, the Iron Bowl can be very close. So my prediction is that it'll be a fairly close game, but Alabama will end up winning by double digits by the end of the game.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially like you said. Even when you have what feels like a pretty good feel for both teams, you just never really know when it comes to the Iron Bowl. Well, Nick, before I let you get out of here, I want to check it. Is this going to be the first Iron Bowl you've covered?
This will be the first one, so I'm very much so looking forward to it. And the only other historic rivalry that I've actually covered that's maybe even close to this level is Yankees-Red Sox. And that's a very different sport and a very different kind of environment, but I'm very excited to see the Iron Bowl up close and in person.
What's sort of your expectation as far as someone that's not gotten to be there before?
Well, I don't know if there's a better way to sum it up than I'm just excited to see what the crowd is like, especially with it being at Jordan-Hare, just with, Auburn being little brother at times throughout the, past, just with, most schools are little brother to Alabama over the past, decade. But yeah, I think that it'll be fascinating to see what it's like, because even though Auburn, the last few weeks has slipped up, and it's, this isn't going to be for the West, and really there's not much more to this for Auburn than, just the pride of winning this game, as far as stakes go. I'm really curious to see just kind of what the fan reaction is, because I think it's still, just from what I hear, going to be, such a high level, even, which is so fascinating to me, because normally if this were just another game where, the one team does not have that high stakes, they can't win the division, they can't, make the college football playoff, whatever it might be, you might not see that same enthusiasm, but I'm really excited to see what this actually looks like in person.
Yeah, I hope the fans come through, just because when it's loud during an Iron Bowl, like the first one I went to was 2017, which wound up being for the West, and Jared Stidham and Auburn wound up beating Jalen Hurts in Alabama. But when it's loud in an Iron Bowl, I mean, it's unlike any other game I've ever been to. I hope it lives up to that. I hope that the Auburn fans get loud for you on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Just whatever it is, it'll be, I think, a good experience, and I'm excited to be able to get my first one out of the way.
Nick, thanks so much for the time. For the people who watch this, let them know where they can check out your tweets, your stories, and if you know some of the stuff you're working on this week, by all means, give it a shout out.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at _Nick Kelly, and check out the work on the TuscaloosaNews.com.
Thanks again to Nick for taking a little time to talk to us about the game, and we're going to go into
How many Nicks have we talked to this year?
Nick Suss, Nick Kelly.
Okay, so that might have been it.
Yeah, yeah.
Nick Saban on Saturday.
I talked to him at Media Days.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So 3. The
good
name
answer.
a better trio. Nick Kelly, Nick Suss, and Nick Saban. We're going to go into our picks. Unfortunately, our intern, Jake Weiss, is already gone for Thanksgiving break. We tried to call him just then, but he's probably deliberating over his picks still.
Probably.
Maybe he'll call us during the podcast.
That's why he wished you a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
On like November 12th.
Yes. He was just super excited, bless his heart. So, the standings. I have got 152 games right. That's the lead. Good news for you. You have surpassed Dr. Weiss.
Oh, thank goodness.
You have 144, and he has 142 after he just got 4 games right last week.
Dang, Jake, what'd you do?
Kind of a rough one. Remember, we only picked 10 games, so it's not quite as bad, but it was not great.
We only got 10 this week, too, right?
Correct. And they're all going to be college games this week. The only high school game in our area left will be next week. It will be Central versus Thompson for the Class 7A state title.
And the Smith Station girls flag football team.
Absolutely.
Playing, I don't remember who they're
I
playing.
don't know who they're playing, but
We'll
they're
be
going to
on
win.
top of that next week.
We'll have all kinds of coverage on that. Starting with the college games, we're going to start with Thanksgiving night, the Egg Bowl.
The Egg Bowl's on Thanksgiving night?
Yes.
I didn't even know that.
Yep. Ole Miss at Mississippi State.
Oh, Jordan.
I think Mississippi State is favored, but I'm going with Lane Kiffin and the Rebels. I'm picking Ole Miss.
Tell you what, I posted something about this completely unwarranted. No one asked for my opinion about this game.
Most of your tweets are unwarranted.
Yeah,
let's
that's
be
also
honest.
true. But I thought, Mississippi State is because Mississippi State was favored in some sports books coming out, and I thought, people are going to hold Ole Miss's loss at Auburn against them, but we know better. I feel like Jordan Hare Stadium at night is pretty impossible to win in, and that's what happened to Ole Miss. I don't hold that loss against Ole Miss, so I'm going to pick Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss will win this game, but it could very much go the other way.
Very much like the Iron Bowl, you just don't ever know what to expect.
Sure.
in
Well,
Egg Bowl.
in both these teams, Ole Miss has obviously played well all season, although they've won ugly at times. Like Liberty was kind of ugly.
Tennessee was ugly.
This last one was ugly. Well, they played Vanderbilt and only win by like
Vanderbilt,
14.
Yeah.
So, but hey, there's something to be said about taking care of business. Mississippi State's been up and down. They've been all over the place. Man, I didn't know that was on Thursday. That's exciting.
Now you know what to do after Turkey Day.
Yeah, but I'll pick Ole Miss. I'll pick Ole Miss.
Missouri at Arkansas. I am going to go with Arkansas. I think that Missouri team is just not quite as good. Just got lucky against a not good Florida team. Sorry, Dan Mullen.
Do we got a Vegas line for that?
I don't know.
Can we
You do this every week. I don't look at the
Can we give
numbers.
a
Just pick with your heart, man.
Can we give a shout out to Eli Drinkwitz?
Just body Dan Mullen.
Yeah, well, he brought out the lightsaber after the game at his press conference because Dan Mullen did the Darth Vader thing, and then you saw what he did today.
Oh yeah, the quote today about reaping what you sow.
He said, my father was a farmer, and there's an old saying: you reap what you sow. If you sow kindness, you reap kindness. If you sow jackass, you reap jackass.
Yep, that's pretty much the impression I got.
Sheesh. One of those people is an SEC coach. The other one's fired.
Yes.
That said, Arkansas. I don't know, man. This is tricky. Who'd you pick?
Arkansas. I don't trust Missouri's really that good.
What's Arkansas done lately? What'd they do last week?
They hung with Alabama. They lost by a touchdown.
Last week?
Mm-hmm. They just couldn't stop Bryce Young, who threw for like 561 yards, I think.
I'll take Arkansas at home.
Ohio State at Michigan in the game.
Yeesh.
I have rooting interest for Michigan.
Sure.
Sorry, it's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Ohio State. I have no faith in Harbaugh to ever win this game.
Nope. Florida State at Florida in the we need a win to make a bowl.
Yikes.
I'm going with the Seminoles.
Wow. We'll talk about starting the season poorly and ending the season poorly. But Florida State has somewhat recovered from a 0-4 start, I think. Losers to Jacksonville State. I'll pick Florida State, but that's going to be an ugly look in the swamp.
I want to see how many people are at that game and ask how much they paid for said tickets, because
Did you see Big Cat say on Twitter that Central Florida is the best team in Florida?
Yeah, I did,
It might be.
and I said you are technically correct, which is, as we all know from Futurama, the best kind of correct.
Kind of correct, right? It's you.
Penn State at Michigan State. This should be a pretty good game as well. I'm going to pick the road Nittany Lions.
Really?
I think that Michigan State was a little bit of a fraud. Just kind of got
Fraudulent.
lucky. Had things break their way against Michigan. I don't think they're really that good. And they also lost by 49 to Ohio State last
That's
week.
true.
Picking Penn State.
You know what? I'm going to take Michigan State. I think Michigan State is better than Penn State. I think Ohio State is firmly better than Michigan State. And all that happens is, I don't know if they're 49 points better, but they were better every single play for a series of time in which it became a blowout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that means Michigan State is bad. We'll see. Has he signed that extension yet, old
No,
buddy?
I don't think that they've said anything. I think he might have tried to call the AD at halftime, and the AD had his phone.
Can I still sign it?
Hey, remember that contract we were talking about?
Again, though, the Mel Tucker, it makes sense to me. Michigan State, much like Auburn, one of the teams that would benefit greatly from a 12-team playoff.
Absolutely. I agree.
But I pick, who did I say? I'm picking
You
Michigan
picked Michigan State.
Yeah.
You're taking the Spartans.
I'm taking the Spartans.
Vanderbilt at Tennessee. I'm picking Tennessee because Tennessee is Tennessee and Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt.
Yes, for Tennessee.
Texas A&M at LSU. This will be it for Ed. If they don't win, I believe that LSU has to win this game to be bowl eligible. I think that does not happen, and I think Jimbo and the Aggies win this one in Baton Rouge.
Texas A&M, you want to talk about a volatile season? They've had one.
Talk about truly most of the SEC, I feel like, outside of like Georgia and mostly Alabama, it's been like all over the place.
Up and down. Yeah, I think Texas A&M will win the game. A little more talent. It could be closer than you think. Man, I'd like to see is this on Saturday?
Yes.
I'd like to see a big crowd in Tiger Stadium for Coach O's swan song. But I think Texas A&M wins.
Oklahoma at Oklahoma State in Bedlam. Usually the joke is Oklahoma's going to win. The question is by how much. I'm picking Oklahoma State. I think that Oklahoma State's defense is very, very good. I don't trust what Oklahoma has going on between Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler. I'm going to pick Oklahoma State to get the home win.
Jordan, why is Oklahoma State ranked high?
They've only lost one game. I think it was to Iowa State, and their defense is truly, as long as Mike Gundy has been there, this might be the best Oklahoma State defense ever. And that's really what kind of sways me to pick them over an Oklahoma team that I think's also kind of a fraud.
I also forgot about Oklahoma this season. How many games have they lost now? One or two?
They lost to...
They've lost. They lost the one.
Yeah, but they played like crap a lot.
Yeah, that's also true.
Iowa State was driving down last week with a chance to win, and Baylor is the team that beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, Baylor.
And they kicked a late field goal because they said that point differential would potentially matter because of tiebreakers. So Baylor kicked a late field goal when they were already trying.
Oklahoma State shut out Texas Tech 23-0.
Oklahoma State's good, man.
Do I believe in Mike Gundy?
Are you of the OAN going to support Mike Gundy?
Oh no! Oh no!
I think Oklahoma State's going to pull it off.
Oklahoma State -3.5. Give me the Cowboys.
I'm taking the Cowboys. Clemson at South Carolina. This rivalry obviously means a lot in the Palmetto State. It matters a little less because South Carolina got bowl eligible last week by beating Auburn.
Ugh.
I'm picking Clemson. This Clemson team isn't Clemson that we're used to, but they're still pretty good, and this would leave them at 9-3. I think that Clemson gets the road win.
Yeah, I think when Clemson, I almost feel like Clemson's at an advantage going into Williams-Brice Stadium because they're going to play more like Clemson.
Probably.
They're going to get in there, and all those recruits are going to be like, man, South Carolina can't do nothing to us. They're going to look around that stadium and be like, we're going to send all these people home sad. And that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Fair. All right, the big one, the one that you and I will both be at, the Iron Bowl, Alabama at Auburn. I haven't looked at a line lately. The first line I saw was like 18.5.
Yeah.
I'm going over. I'm picking Alabama. I am saying 34-14, and I think it will be closer than that through like 2.5 quarters. I think Auburn will hang, and you'll see a few plays made. I'm going to go ahead and say that we see Shedrick Jackson make a big play in the first half that keeps Auburn sort of in the mix. Ultimately, I don't think the offense is good enough to keep up, and I think that Bryce Young is going to make some big plays through the air, and it's going to leave Brian Harsin with a loss in his debut in the Iron Bowl.
I'm picking Alabama. I don't think it'll be that close. For a score, 31-13, Auburn gets palindromed.
And just barely, if the line was 18.5, congrats, good team, good teams cover.
There you go. That's possible. I mean, it could be something like 31-20. I think Auburn has a chance to keep it competitive early, but like you said, Bryce can strike like lightning, and I think there'll be times when he does that. And as we've noticed, Auburn recently has not had kind of the fortitude to punch back at times. Like, it's got to figure out where it's going to find that, because when things get rolling against them, they don't have what it takes to stop it. So your best bet is to never let Alabama get rolling, but eventually maybe it's late second quarter. Maybe it's into the third quarter. I think Alabama gets rolling, and then the snowball, and it's over.
Before we get out of here, let's talk about basketball just real quick.
Sure.
Auburn men's basketball.
Hey, man, this is about to be a basketball podcast.
Yes, solely
Hearing
basketball.
about next episode.
Yep. So they're getting ready for the battle for Atlantis. We're recording this on Tuesday. Wednesday will be the first game of that tournament. Auburn will be playing number 22 UConn. What do you think about this trip? You got a chance to talk to Bruce Pearl on Sunday, sort of a preview of what's to come. How important do you think these 3 games will be for Auburn, and what we might be able to learn from it?
Well, yeah, and I kind of asked him, how do you make the most out of this trip? And I kind of threw out there, like, is there a team bonding element? Is there not? Is there? Are you telling them, hey, is it like the tournament in the spring, or is it not? And he was just like, well, no, we're not going to be swimming with the Dolphins, and he kind of shut that down. And like I said, either it is or it's not.
That's a fair question.
Yeah, and he's like, no, not as much of a bonding thing. They're going down there. It's made for TV. They're treating it like that. It's a business trip. They're treating it like that. He said, we're going down there to play 3 really good teams and see where we stack up against them, right? So that's where their mindset is. That's what they're going for. Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is to just make the most out of that. Get the best film you can out of it. You know what I mean? Scout them the best you can, and see. Test your players. I mean, there's always a test that you can put your players in. Did they handle the scout well? Did they attack UConn the way you want them to? And if they don't, you got to fix that before conference play begins, right? There's always a test. So three good tests, no matter who they play. It's not is it bracket style, like so determined who they're going to play?
No,
right.
It's like double elimination,
right.
Because they would play
Loyola,
Chicago, or Michigan State, and it just depends on how each of those games play out.
Right. So they know they're going to play UConn. So a good test there. Yeah, either Loyola or Michigan State. Those are tournament caliber teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, kind of like obviously they went and played in Hawaii a couple years ago, but they got to play Duke, and then guess what? That was the first blue blood they played that year. Come tournament time,
Kansas,
they beat the other 3.
UNC, Kentucky.
Yeah, there you go. So it's valuable, very valuable trip. Take what you can out of it. If you lose, it's okay, but get everything you can out of that time you're on the court down there.
And speaking of basketball, I want to make sure we talk a little bit about the women's basketball team. Beat Georgia Tech. Was that their second win so far this year?
Yes, they're 2-2. They went into that game 1-2. Nell Fortner's team 4-0.
And that was on the road. That was in Atlanta.
On the road in Atlanta, yeah. Auburn finally played Nell again. Something that Auburn wanted to avoid for a long time because you don't want to lose to her. And yeah, right. And then this year it was like, okay, Johnny's first year. It's an excuse, loss. And then they went over there and beat them.
How big? I mean, I know that it's still early and this is just the first year, but what kind of boost do you feel like that could be for the team to be able to get a big win on the road like that?
This is Instagram of the men's team dancing in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
TikToking. Anyway, go check that out. How big is it? It's huge because it's something that she can point to on the recruiting trail. It's something she can point to with her own team. It's something she can point to because I cannot stress this enough, Jordan. Things are going to go badly this season. There are going to be rough patches for this team. They have an incomplete roster. That's no knock on the kids who are there. Honestly, Scott Grayson is a great player, but you're going to be asking a lot of Sanaya Wells, who's kind of a shooter, who they're making into a point guard. They have a new freshman, Marshawn Bostic, true freshman, who they're asking a ton of in the backcourt. And then in the front court, they really don't have a true center, true power forward situation going on. They're going to be outsized by pretty much everyone they play. And then obviously Romy Levy, one of your star returners, got hurt with an ACL injury the Sunday before the opener. It's going to get tough, I promise. I think against Georgia Tech, maybe there was a matchup situation where Georgia Tech played small and that just played into Auburn's hands because Auburn is small. Auburn doesn't have a choice but to play small. And obviously Georgia Tech could not have been playing their best when Auburn beat them. But it's big because some of these wins are going to be hard to come by. So when you get them, it's good to point to them. It's good to build with it. So big ups to them, and I think everyone recognized that. Everyone on Twitter, Bruce Pearl, Butch Thompson, everyone gave Johnny Harris the congratulations because I think they know that in a rebuild year, to be ahead of the curve, to be winning a game like that before you should be, that's big. And it can help them out. So helps with the buy-in, helps with the unity and all that. Because like I said, I can't stress enough, it's going to be tough at times.
On that note, let's get out of here. I'll just let everybody know. Be sure to watch out for us on Twitter. You know, we will have the post-game Zoom, or not the Zoom, the post-game podcast.
Yeah, we'll do it in person this
We'll be
time.
together. This won't be a Columbia, South Carolina situation. We'll have all kinds of content the next few days. I've got several Iron Bowl stories in the works. Be sure to read all those stories. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to go look at Instagram like Justin's doing right now. Subscribe to the podcast.
Jabari and Jimmy Dykes on the beach.
Natural. Very natural. But we're going to get out of here. For Justin Lee, I'm Jordan Hill. Thanks as always for watching and listening. And until next time, take care. And since Jake Weiss can't be here to say it, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.